All right. So, welcome to the Light Body Living podcast. And I'm coming to you from beautiful Barbados. And my guest today is Darren LeBaron from the UK. He's been with us for quite a while on this island, and he is becoming a true Bajan now. And so much has happened since we talked last time. I wanted us to catch up and get some updates on some of the wonderful things that have happened because you had a retreat.
Mm,
Um, and I had gotten the opportunity to make some food, mushroom food for that retreat. And then
yeah,
I stepped off the island and so much happened. So, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And yeah, I'm still on the island. I haven't gone anywhere, so I'm feeling fine today. Had a very productive and creative day. So yeah, I'm feeling good for it, man. After, I've gotten some downtime. It's been a busy few months. As you mentioned, we had the retreat here on the island, which you produced some amazing food for myself and our guests. But the whole week was about, those folks that we had from all over the world. We had people from the UK, the US, Australia, other places in Europe, as well as local people that came to engage in learning more about mushrooms and wellness. And what did that mean? They was immersed in 6 days of learning everything about what mushrooms are, how to cultivate mushrooms, how to cook with mushrooms, how to turn mushrooms into medicine, and how to make mushrooms just a part and parcel of your day-to-day way of life. So,
Yeah.
it was all of that. We went out foraging, doing some activities in nature. So it was just an opportunity for everybody, including myself, just to reintroduce, re-engage ourselves with mushrooms, strengthen our relationships with this living and breathing organism that has so much potential.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm so excited because it's like we're at that point. I mean, I've been into mushrooms for quite a while, but it's always been from an overseas point of view. Yes, I have been I started to get red reishi mushroom here, but to see what you have come forward with in terms of the retreat and then bringing in some of your colleagues to really help push the needle way forward because they came and they landed on this place and really started to discover things. And I love that because now it takes Barbados into a whole different realm in terms of
Mhm.
really realizing the potential of the mushroom kingdom here on this island. So tell
Most
us a little
definitely.
bit about that.
So yeah, man, following on from the retreat, I had a week break in between, and then arriving one by one was what I call the A team from the UK. These are individuals that I've worked with closely, engaged with them in different activities in the UK, who know what they're doing in their field, in their speciality. And I know a lot about ethnomycology, the history of mushrooms, the culture of mushrooms. I know a little bit about cultivating mushrooms, enough to teach and share with folks. But I've got some people around me that just know a lot more in other areas. So, they're privy to what I've been doing out here and in other places. And we're like, as and when you need some help or support, let me know. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it the last time that we got together, but the research that had been done on the island around, native species of fungi goes back to the 1940s. We don't have anything that's like really up to date since the 40s. And even then, the focus is on fungi, not necessarily mushrooms, because as we know or should know, mushrooms are actually the fruiting body. That,
Right,
but when we're dealing with fungi, you've got different types of fungi that don't produce mushrooms, and you have parasitic fungi, and that was what the research was mainly geared around how fungi, parasitic fungi affect crops,
right,
sugarcane,
right,
coconut. So with that said, we're like, well, there's a lot more that we need to find out. These guys who I work with in the UK know a lot more about it than me, but they were also excited by the fact that, they were coming to a new environment and were willing to learn and exchange at the same time. So we literally picked, like a handful of locations that we know had the diversity on the island from, very wet, moist, rainy areas to more dry areas, just a nice range of diverse areas on the site. Well, Bayesian people will know. So I can say we went everywhere from Turner's Hall Woods. We was in the Hillaby region. We was at Cocoa Hill Forest. We was at Walker's Farm, Walker's Reserve. We was at the
Walker's
Andromeda
good,
Botanic
yeah.
Garden. Yeah,
Yeah.
man, and a range of other spots that we just felt like this looks and feels right. And we just started surveying the island for mushrooms. And what was amazing in a short space of time, and although some will consider it a small island, that's what I heard a lot growing up by my Jamaican and Trinidadian friends. You guys are small island, but for
Yeah.
such a small island, there is so much diversity and so much that we couldn't cover it all. There's only so much that we could actually cover. And what we did identify as was just up to, we was just under 200 observations of fungi on the island, mushrooms in
Wow.
particular that have
Wow.
a range of different potentials. Ones, well, when I say potentials, they're doing this already. So it's not like the potential is that humans will become aware of their potential and what they're doing, but they're out here doing this stuff anyway. So, but anything from mushrooms that are good for the soil and micro remediation, replenishing the soil. We found mushrooms that are good for gourmet. We can mushrooms that we can eat that got good vitamins and proteins and fiber for us. And then we also found some of those medicinal mushrooms. And what was really interesting is that although we use the term reishi a lot, that's kind of like a generic term because there's loads of reishi mushrooms that come from the Ganoderma family, and there's like the classic reishi, mushrooms. And then you have like those that are in the family. And with that said, there's only one or two of them that's actually really been explored, and we can, we have a good understanding of what the compounds are. But there's several other reishi mushrooms that we're not privy to, and what we discovered was that Barbados has at least four of them. One that we was privy to, and two to three others that we're like, well, they come from this family, but they've not been recorded in this region, and we don't know what they are. And this is what's really exciting that we can then send samples of those mushrooms back to the lab in the UK, start doing what we call DNA sequencing, understanding what these mushrooms are, sending them off and looking at the compounds that are in there, and can start to identify whether or not these mushrooms have these therapeutic compounds that are going to be good for health. And as we mentioned the last time, you can see that they're still right behind you, man. The reishi mushrooms have got so much potential as far as, what they offer, as far as, building up the immune system, cancer preventative, good for fatigue, sleep. There's a long list of things that reishi and other mushrooms bring to the table. But we need to, before we say, oh, these mushrooms can do this, these mushrooms can do that, we're going to do the thorough work and make sure they get sent off to the lab and get that data back before we make
And
any
that
official
that
release.
is that is so needed, so needed. Because once we do that, then you can open it up to the world. And that's what we want because you going forward and teaching the youth to be able to grow a lot of these things, whether they're culinary or medicinal,
Mm,
going forward with the backing of scientific research, then it can take it now to a whole different level and we can make products that can go out to the wider world. So that's what we definitely want to happen. So
mm,
it was really cool to be able to gather with everybody and them give us a good rundown on what they were up to and the
mm,
amazing work that is has been done by them by putting together products that have really taken off since COVID when it comes to even just single tinctures of each
mm.
mushroom from maitake to reishi. I am definitely in love with cordyceps. And then you have the turkey tail, which is so important, especially being able to hear them talk to different ailments in terms of
Mm.
cancer. Uh, they talk to diabetes as well
Right.
as menopause. Those three really hit home for me because doing my clinical work is what you want to hear in terms of having things and resources, especially things that are local that you can now pass on to and
Mm.
combine them with different herbs to really pass on those nutrients to people. So I was extremely happy to hear all that stuff.
Yeah, man, me too. And like you said, what's really important for me is that one, we not forget that this information and data is here already. It's already on the island. People like yourself have been doing the work. We had Ras Isles, the OG, out with us every day, on the field. He was learning about mushrooms because he's not a mushroom guy, but we know he's a herb guy. So then he's teaching us about herbs. So there was this amazing exchange going on, man. And then looking
Yeah.
at, so maybe. we combine these mushrooms with these herbs, we can have some really strong, potent, medicine that can help mitigate, these cha health challenges that people have. And as you mentioned, everything from cancer, diabetes, menopause. And, that's great that we're doing this research, doing this study. But for me, I was taught, and I'm sure you know as well, that prevention is better than cure. So rather than us waiting for these things to continue and increase, what we should be looking at is educating and empowering folks so that these things become a way of life. And then all you need to do is grow mushrooms and eat mushrooms. It should just be part of your life. And these
Exactly.
healthy options, and being out in nature and doing some exercise and all these things. 'Cause it's not a one size fits all, and it's not a quick fix. It's not like you can just start taking these mushrooms and everything's going to be all right. There's a lifestyle
No.
that comes with this that you need to
Yeah, there's
adopt.
definitely a lifestyle that comes with it. You need your sunshine. You need to have a passion for something. You need to have good, clean water. I mean, and Isles is a great example of that. I mean, his property has a spring on it. He has his
Yeah.
mushrooms growing wild. I mean, he's into his herbs. He's getting his sunshine daily. There's so many grounding yourself, walking barefoot. There's so many parts to the lifestyle that this is just adding another layer to the things that you need to learn so that you widen your scope. But when it comes to culinary mushrooms, I find that this is something, especially for living here on the island and seeing people eating so much meat, it is something to really help them with cutting back on the meat intake and eating something that has the taste, has the texture, because the taste comes from how you season it to make it really something that you can have on your plate and people feel comfortable to eat it in
Mm.
quantity, as the stew on their rice or I do riblets or burgers or these kind of things. So we have to get to the point where people realize it is something that can be introduced in and it tastes really great. And that's just the culinary side, which for me is blowing up. Yes, I'm a raw food chef and I do it in a certain way, but just think of the average person doing being able to do a mushroom burger and really just liking it.
Mm,
Period.
mm, mm.
Okay? That's what you want to get
Yeah.
to. And if you can do it with locally grown mushrooms, that takes it to another level because I like the fact that you are bringing it in a way where you're teaching people to empower themselves. Okay? Because I have used these
Yeah, man.
mushrooms for so long and I've never, my hands are already full, both of them and everything. But to get to that point of growing them, I've never taken that step. I've learned it, but I always just support somebody else that is doing it. Okay. And I'm always been
Mm.
wishing that more people on the island would get into it. And it's only recently that you're seeing pink oyster mushrooms come forward and blue ones and gray ones and stuff. And you're the one that talked about the yellow ones. I still have not seen them here, but uh, these guys are now, you have a few people growing it. And I want to see more people into this and being able to just buy from them and then showcase how to make it into different meals is what I really am interested in showcasing from the sauce to the burgers. So people have a variety of ways of putting it in their diet and they're comfortable with it.
No, definitely. And I said, you've been blazing, sis, because, before I got to that island and doing what I'm doing, you've been here doing it. I got to big up Corey as well, because Corey, who's got, the food spot in, Food of the Gods in town, he's been doing the work, doing it before I got to that island. You didn't need me, but what we do need is each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like we're all doing it. Your hands are full, my hands are full, but many hands make light work. So the more of us that are doing it, then it makes the work easier and lighter for us. And then we can focus on certain things. So with that said, yeah, my goal is like to lighten my load because I can't grow mushrooms for the whole island. And there's no one company can grow enough mushrooms for the region. So that's why we
right.
should come together. You don't need to be competitive. If we're being competitive, I know that you're not a true mushroom. You're not, you're thinking you're a capitalist. But if you're a
Yeah.
true mushroom, through people, you'll be like, yo, this is too much for me to manage.
Of
One, I
course.
wouldn't want to manage it all myself. I would want to share the load. I would want the exchanges to take place. And this is what it's all about. So I'm happy to announce that this weekend I've got a historical workshop that covers the history of mushrooms coming from Africa to the Caribbean. But I've also got a mushroom cultivation workshop and it's sold out. So that lets me know because people are telling me, oh, people on the island are not ready for mushrooms. They're not re Yes, they
It's
are.
not true.
Because we've been doing
They
all
are.
these workshops and they're being sold out, from night walks, mushroom forages, mushroom talks, mushroom cultivation workshops. And there's people on the island that are ready for this stuff. So for me, that's showing and proving that, each one teach one. We're going to have over 25 people here at the weekend, and they're all going to go away shroomed out and going back telling people about how easy it is to grow mushrooms. And if each one can teach one, that's another 25, that's 50 people, and that's 100 people. And the same thing happened in the UK. It didn't start off with big numbers. And the UK is a lot bigger than Barbados, but we got there slowly but surely. So for me, the same thing applies here, man. We just hit the people that, want to be hit with the knowledge and information. And then some of them are going to apply that and integrate it into their life. And then they're going to teach and share as well. And that's what this thing is all about.
One of the amazing things that came out of the press conference that you had was the fact that y'all realized that there were different types of what would you say, dead material that you can use now to grow the mushrooms off of.
Mm.
Okay. And then you were looking into the ones that we could use here in the Caribbean or in Barbados.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that was fascinating because you're so used to birch and certain trees from North America that you hear more
Mm.
about as opposed to hearing you talk about coconut. It's like,
Yeah.
yes,
Sugarcane, you know what I'm saying? All of
yes,
these materials and fibers, and which later become waste materials that mushrooms love. Mushrooms love a bit of rubbish, a bit of waste. So one, it
right.
can help us mitigate our waste challenges. What we call
Yes,
waste, what they say, I don't know if you had the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So
yes,
it's like what we consider waste is what mushrooms love, and they can turn that into good stuff, not just for us, but for the environment as a whole. So, you can cultivate mushrooms on sugarcane waste, on coconut waste, and on trees that I've heard are a challenge in Barbados in some cases, like mimosa trees that,
yes,
are invasive, that have
everywhere.
been introduced. And what we found out is that mushrooms love these things. So we can help mitigate waste. If you decided to chop down some of these trees, it wouldn't affect climate change in a negative way. It'd be very positive because mushroom can mitigate the carbon and turn that into good
Right,
stuff for the
right.
environment. You can mitigate the hardwood and the sugar cane and the coconut waste and replenish the soil. And then the mushrooms grow from that waste and we eat it and it replenishes us. It's like, come on, man, like, what are we waiting for? So for me, that's why education is really important. We found out that the mimosa trees that, everywhere that we went to, all of the sites that we went to, the official programs were saying that, these are one of the big challenges on the island. Like they're an invasive tree, they take over environments, they're quick, colonizing places and spaces. And I'm like, well, the mushrooms ready to colonize their ass if you allow them to, because they're already doing it. A lot of the species that we found already had been decomposing trees. So it's like nature's by default is helping to regulate and balance things out on our behalf. So for us to be out in the wild and seeing these mushrooms on the mimosa trees, breaking them down, and people saying, "Oh, we have a problem with these trees," I'm like, "Well, the mushrooms have already answered your prayers. They're already out there doing it by default. And if we work together with the mushrooms, we can have more of a focus that enables us to plant more native trees if we understand. Because again, the research that we done, and for the guys, I was privy to some of it, but the guys, it really threw them off when they understood because we want to know what trees are these? Where do they come from? How old are they? What's the soil type? And when they realized that Barbados was stripped and turned into a blank canvas and started, just 400 to 500 years ago, it touched them. It touches me, as our people, and I know what we've been through, but for them to come as agriculturalists, for them to come as mycologists and be like, is this what your people experience? Like they didn't understand the depth of the impact on the people, the soil, and they understood how important it is for us to do this work. So they're coming in like, yo, Like whatever we can do, however we can do it, like we're willing to help. So looking at, like you said, these waste materials, we want to develop formulas so that, that all those brothers that I see at Warren's and other places just hacking down the coconuts, and I just see them hanging out on the street at night. You know what I'm saying? And they scoop. I don't know what they're doing with them, but I know what I could do with them as a mushroom cultivator. I know there's more than enough mushrooms there and more than enough coconut waste that can marry each other. And these are the conversations that we need to be having.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, once they said that, it touched me deeply because there is so much coconut waste that we see every weekly. Because all of us on this island are big consumers of coconut water when it's a Sunday tradition. And then
Mm.
on top of that, we are all privy to the whole thing that goes on with our seasonal sugarcane harvesting. We have a whole festival around it, a huge
Yeah.
festival around it. So you imagine if we can go from harvesting it and all that waste get used now to grow mushrooms so that you have them now for a whole season after that. That is such a wonderful thing that that waste will get used for. I can't wait to
You
see
know what
that
would happen?
happen.
Do you know what would happen? The sugarcane festival will become a mushroom festival.
Yes, yes, yes. That would be awesome. That
That's
would
what
be
happens,
awesome.
man. That's what happens when you give mushrooms a chance. You
Yes.
start to celebrate them
Come
because you
down
then
here
value
for that mushroom festival. It'll be a separate thing altogether. That would be wonderful. And you have young people growing the mushrooms and making medicine, making food, making all kinds of things with mushrooms, and taking it, making hats, making scarves.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like I've seen
yeah.
mushroom clothing and all that kind of thing. It can take it to so many different levels, the different types of mushrooms. And
Mm.
it's a new frontier. So this is why you're seeing so much exciting um people coming out. Because for us, I mean, yes, there are one or two of us that have been doing it from time, but these young people need something new and exciting to get their teeth into. So this is awesome to see them turning out. I heard you mention that you did a little hike at night. How did that go in terms of glow in the dark?
Yeah, man. So all of that, everything has been fun, man. We done that at Walker's Reserve. There was like about 25 of us. We was meant to sign up 15 people. And I was getting calls in the week from Walker saying, yo, more people want to sign up. And even Max, who was facilitating the workshop, was like, the more people it is, like that's really great, but he wants to give a quality experience. But we was like, let the people in it. Like, who knows when this might happen again? Let's see and get
Exactly.
the people get experiencing this stuff. So
Yeah.
we was out there sharing torches. We was out there from 6:30 to like 10 p.m. Just looking at flowers, insects, fungi, just exploring nature, seeing the beauty of nature through the lens of how other species sees nature. So we see nature through our lens. We've got a
Right.
limited spectrum, that
Right.
we can see, life, as we know, the third
Yeah.
dimension. But birds see from a different spectrum, bees see from a different spectrum. Different species have different spectrums, and these torches allow us to see things how the birds would see it, how the bees would see it. And would you
Right.
believe it or not? The world is seen through a psychedelic lens when it comes to birds and bees and butterflies and all that. You're like, what? This is what the world looks like when you take mushrooms. I'm like, yeah, like that's how these pests and insects see the world. That's why they're having so much fun and they're out here just doing what they're doing. When they dive into those flowers, man, if you would have seen a passion fruit flower, for me that was the highlight. Because it's a beautiful flower, nice looking species,
Yes,
but
it
under the
is.
UV light, man, did this thing just like look different. I wouldn't even attempt to explain it. The best I could
Wow.
say is go onto my page, follow the pages, and you start seeing the things that people have posted on my page, Walker's Reserve page, and you're gonna see like what these things look like. But it doesn't do it any service at all until you see it with your own eyes. And when you see it with your
Right.
own eyes, you're like,
Right.
wow,
Right.
yeah, man. So that's
That's
really dope. We've been doing that. We done a photography workshop as well. So Max, he specializes in what we call macro photography, which means that he observes small micro things that you usually can't see with the naked eye or really small that you walk by. Mushrooms that like these little micro mushrooms that are no bigger than a millimeter that are on
I
like
saw
little
that.
leaves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
man.
was
And then
cool, cool, cool. And when he blew
zoom
it
in,
up,
document stuff.
it was spectacular.
Yeah, man.
Spectacular. It was
Even Ras
beautiful.
was like, Ras ours was like, that's worlds within worlds, because when you look at it, it's like you look at it, it's like, wow, there's a whole world, and then you get your little, Looper's eyeglass, and you can see within it. But Max's lens, he's able to blow them up so we can see them, in full size. So we had, I don't want to misname them, but it was like the Barbados Photography Society or Association,
Right.
whoever they are coming. There was a
The
bag load of them
photography.
that
Yeah.
turned up. Yeah, so like we're interested. And then a lot of them came in. I done a survey at the beginning. I was like, how many of you are here because of mushrooms? Nobody put their hands up. I says, how many of you here because of photography? They all put their hands up because they would say they're all photographers. So they're like, we just wanted
Right.
to learn the techniques of photography. By the end of the session, they're like, well, where can we see mushrooms like this? Because, I'd love to be taking pictures of mushrooms like this. And Max let them know that they're everywhere. There's not a path that you could walk on where they're not. And they're like, it just blew their mind. And by the end of it, we had converted 100% of them into wanting to take pictures of mushrooms. And, that's
Awesome.
what's been happening. Yes. You know what I'm
Yes, and
saying?
that's what's needed because it needs us to come at this from all different angles so that we really create a whole new industry, a whole new love, a whole new way of looking at duppy parasols. So we get that
Mm.
name not even out of our reach because we should embrace it in the sense that there's a reason for the name in the first place. We talked about that before, and move forward with it now with new generations looking at it and really loving mushrooms.
Yeah, and then you might want to hang with the duppies under the umbrella. That's another subject, but that's what it's about because, as we said, that's all about, your spiritual connections with your ancestors. And I say that to say that this is nothing new. Again, I'm going to plug it. I don't know when this comes out, but on the Saturday, as I mentioned, this week, Saturday, the 23rd, I believe it is,
Mhm.
yeah, the 23rd of November,
No, I'm
we've got
putting
two.
this up tonight.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Because we got two workshops back to back. As I said, the cultivation one is sold out. That's in the afternoon. But the
right,
morning workshop is called A Mushroom History, tracing its roots from Africa to the Caribbean shores. And I'm going to
right.
be going into these of mushrooms. But I'm saying that just to say that part of this presentation, I highlight the usage of mushrooms on the island by the indigenous people, by the Arawak and the Taino. There's records of them using mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, as well as red reishi mushrooms on the island, going back hundreds of years. So
Good,
this is
good,
just
good.
us reconnecting with all of that, man. That's what this is really all about. I'm on my personal journey reconnecting with all of this, and I know that we're all on that same journey, man.
When is this again?
That's Saturday morning, 10 a.m. till 12. Yeah, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
And then the other one is the Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a whole mushroom day. We have the
Right.
mushroom talk in the morning, 10 till 12. We have a
Yeah.
mushroom lunch, and
Right.
then we have a mushroom afternoon learning how to cultivate.
Good,
All
good, good,
taking
good, good.
Andromeda, Andromeda Botanic Gardens.
Okay. All right.
Stay
Awesome. Awesome.
busy.
Awesome. Sounds good. Okay. So, um, you're winding down here. You have this stuff on Saturday, then on the 28th, you fly out of here and where you're off to next.
That's a secret.
That's a
Where I'm off,
secret.
yeah,
Okay.
where I am
So
going is home. I'm going home. I'm going home.
you're
I'm
going
going
home.
home and then I'm going home. Yeah, man. So I need to
Okay.
take some time out and basically there's some people that I need to squeeze, some people that I need to pinch, some people I need to hug, some people I need to kiss, and show some love to my loved one, my family who I've not seen for, nearly 3 months. And then I want to
Right.
take one step at a time. And maybe by the
Okay.
time we come back next time, I don't know, sure when you invite me back, if I don't get cancelled, I'll share with you where I'm at and what I've been doing.
Right. So that's what I was getting at because I want to keep updates on your travels because I know that there are adventures going on. Even when you go back to the UK, there'll be adventures there that you can update us on. And then when you go home, then you can update us on that one because I have a burning question as a herbalist that I've always wondered when it comes to mushrooms or just um the making of herbals because we know that there are chants and traditions and songs that go along with the making of a lot of these things. And
Mm.
when you get your chance to research it, I would like to find out some of the songs that go along with some of these mushrooms, because I'm sure that each one has its own whole mushroom chant.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll give
Lyric,
you one now,
all of
man,
it.
because in one of my presentations, and I'm going to be talking about it on Saturday. So, like,
Yeah,
if people are watching and listening and thinking this sounds interesting, I want to learn more. Believe me,
yeah.
there's a lot more. So, this is a snippet from our presentation on Saturday. So, what you have is the earliest people, the first peoples in this most recent cycle of humanity. And they're known as the so-called pygmy people. I say so-called because that's not how they refer to themselves. But these are little people that you find, they're actually on every single continent. There's no continent you go on where you don't find the first people being these little people. But in Africa, in Central Africa, they're known as the Aka, the Baka, the Booty, the Babongo, just to name a few. I think I might have mentioned them the last time when we spoke. But they have so it's recorded and documented now. And you can even check this out on YouTube. So it's not too far from people's reaches. And these women, who are the first women to forage for, partake in mushrooms, and pass it on to the communities, these are known as the women who gather mushrooms. They have a song that when you translate the song is titled Women Gathering Mushrooms. And when they go out, they go gather these mushrooms. There's different types of mushrooms that they gather, but one of the most popular mushrooms there is the termite mushroom. So
Okay.
it's association with termites and so forth. But then they go out, they do this whole water drumming ceremony. So that's the first drums. Before we built drums, we was using the water as drums. Yo, this thing is beautiful. But the women are the little mushroom people. They're the little people. And then their song is actually titled, when you translate it into English, Women Gathering Mushrooms. So yeah, they go out, they sing the song. So this song is done, the format of the song is known as like polyphonic. I don't know if you remember like polyphonic ringtones when the phones upgraded and they could play more than one sound
Yes.
at one time.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what the women do. They all have a particular tone, a sound, a frequency that they repeat. And each women, once they're doing it, they get into this zone, into this trance. And what happens is they find more mushrooms. The mushroom, say, here we are, here we go. And like it becomes easy for them to do the foraging that they're up to. So yeah, man, Merlin Sheldrake, he's the author of a book called Entangled Life. And that's all about mushrooms. So he documents that, and many other scholars have documented the role that, Africa in general, not just mushrooms, but all things pretty much, we love make a song and dance about it.
Right.
Calypso music, soca music, reggae music. It's just storytelling,
Yes.
whether whatever it is, whether it's Lindsay lived down the street, she come by the day, down by the,
Yeah.
like we're,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
telling
Yeah.
stories, man. We're telling stories. So when it's telling a story of we go to the forest at the top of the hill by the oak tree is the mushrooms, we turn that into a song. So then later on, the children know that let's go up the hill, let's find the oak tree, and that's where we're gonna find the mushrooms. Like this is how we do
Yes.
it, man.
Perfect. Perfect.
How we
Yes. Yes.
do it.
Yes.
So
Okay,
yeah, man.
so I am glad I asked you that question because it is something that comes up, and I always wonder about that because not from just that point of view, because we had some amazing ways our ancestors in terms of dealing with location. So songs were one of them. Even how we plait our hair as women was another one of
Mm,
them that they would tell
mm,
locations. But I also wanted to know it from making medicine point of view. So I want to get past the them eating it and knowing what they use it for in terms of medicines and if they had medicinal chants that went with these mushrooms. Because I feel like
mm.
they would, how you talk about them in the as a person, I feel that they did the same thing as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like I'm
So
very
when you
confident based
when you
upon.
go home and you do some more research and you find out, you can come back and let us know because I know that that's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
An
man. Yeah,
awesome
man.
journey.
Yeah, man. I'm looking
Okay.
forward to it.
All right, so you have a mushroom day coming up on Saturday, and that's the last event here
That's the
before
last
you
one,
leave.
man. Yeah, we've had backloads of events, so it's the
I
last of
know
them.
you have. Yeah, you've had a lot of them. So I'm looking forward to seeing you back here and seeing how things develop while you are gone.
Mm,
So that when you come back, the needle has pushed forward exponentially, and the average household has their mushrooms going on. I would love to see that.
me too, man. Me too. It's
Yeah,
that it's that time, it's that season.
yeah. All
And like I
right.
said, I
So,
can't grow mushrooms for everybody, but I can eat mushrooms for everybody. So as long as there's people growing mushrooms, I can eat loads of them, man. So that's why we need
right.
more people growing mushrooms for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So this was wonderful, and we will continue to update our guests who are looking in and let them keep knowing what you're up to. Okay, as the mushroom guy, the Bajan mushroom guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Appreciate
been a
that.
pleasure.
No, man, appreciate you too. Appreciate the support that you've been given pre, during, and will continue to. I know there's many others out there again appreciating your work. And like I was saying to my folks, the people are just excited about, you brought these people in, you're doing this. And I'm like, yo, make sure you check out Chantel, make sure you check out Rassars, make sure you check out Corey. Like these are just a handful of people that I know are doing the work. So don't be waiting for me. Don't be looking at what I'm doing in other places and spaces. Everything you need is on your doorstep. The people are already here,
Yeah,
man, doing the work. So for me, that's really important for me to have connected with all of you and be out here, like, yeah, with my A team of Barbados.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I am grateful that you came in because you brought us all together, and it has been a wonderful feeling. Honestly, for somebody to come in and really coordinate things because you get busy in your own little space. So,
Mm,
being able to meet up with you and you doing it from a definitely different perspective, has been lovely. I love
yes,
it,
I
love it, love it, love it.
appreciate you too, man. Appreciate it.
Okay, so take good care
Will
and
do.
we'll catch up again.
All right, man. Stay
Thank you
blessed.
very much for doing this podcast with me.
Anytime.
Okay, take care.